Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today, we have a special guest, Tara Trievel, and she is a certified autism specialist, and she created To Be Social, the Parenting Powerhouse program. And today, we're going to be talking about social communication, not just for people with autism. However, I think any neurodiverse people can really benefit from what Tara has to offer. So welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me. And I'm excited to share as much as you want me to about social communication, about supporting neurodivergent kids, teens, adults, and of course the moms.
Yes, and dads too. There's always a
dads
few dads
too, yes,
who are working on the front end who are working on the front line with their children. So wonderful. Well, I'm so glad to have you and your expertise here to share with us. So what are some common social communication challenges that neurodivergent kids, especially those with autism and ADHD, often face when it comes to making and keeping friends?
Making and keeping friends. Honestly, I find that a lot of kids, it's a bit easier to make friends. They know how to be friendly and smile and that sort of thing. So if somebody is nice to them, then they feel like, okay, I've made a friend. What's really, really hard is maintaining that friendship and then going even further and creating like a bond with a person. And what it is it's kind of complicated, but it's not. It's all about really having trouble with those perspective taking skills. So what I find is that our neurodivergent kids and teens and young adults all really see the world through their own lens, through their own perspective. So it's really hard for them to connect with somebody else when they are really trying to understand people the way they see the world and not the other person. That's really the main struggle. So that's what I really help kids to understand is how to read other people's thoughts and feelings about any situation and themselves. And that's what really kind of creates that understanding, that connection, and that bond.
That's great that you help people with that. I think I as an adult still struggle to some degree. My mom's always like, you're so good at talking to people. And I can have that initial conversation. I do a great job. But it is harder to start to build that relationship. I'm actually in that right now. I recently met someone at the gym and we went out a couple of times. It's like dating, which I haven't done in 100 years. But then she's canceled twice. We were supposed to have dinner at her house, my husband and I, and I sent her a text and I was like, she said she had to cancel because her son had a baseball game. And I said, strike two. And maybe I shouldn't have said that. But now I can't take that back. And so I'm looking forward to hearing some tools and tricks that you have to offer of, how, because I felt hurt by her canceling twice. It affected my day because that was what I thought I was doing that evening. And so I looked at it introspectively instead of through her lens.
Yes, exactly. So exactly the way, what we're talking about here, it is tough because honestly, it's like a human phenomenon. I don't know why. I do a lot of research in neuroscience and stuff like that. And I don't know why, but we take everything personally, like it's a personal attack. Everything. Everybody does. Nobody can tell me, no, I don't take things personally. No, you just
they can tell you that, but that may not be true, right?
But it's not true because we do, and everybody does. It's just how we react to it might be different, or as quickly. If we can rationalize really quickly, then we don't really see it as a personal attack as much. But yes, everything feels like a personal attack because it is personal. So you had your night planned. You had all these plans. You're getting yourself ready, and that takes a lot of energy, emotional, physical, everything. And then when there's a change, you may not have been thinking about that, right? Like, oh, what if she cancels? Because then at least if you say that, then you might be able to help your brain understand it. But then when she canceled, yeah, you felt like, oh my gosh, I was ready for this. I was so excited. Was it me? I don't know what you were thinking, but sometimes we will think, personally, but was really about her. And that's what I mean by perspective. So just like you said, you were seeing it through your lens and feeling it that way. But what she was doing was real for her. And that's a tough thing. And that's exactly what we're talking about here.
We'd like to take a moment to thank our amazing sponsors who make this podcast possible. First up, we have 3D learning experts. If you or someone you love struggles with dyslexia, dyscalculia, or similar learning differences, 3D learning experts is here to help. They specialize in virtual tutoring for students of all ages. From first grade to adulthood, their expert tutors use the proven Orton-Gillingham method for language arts, structured and sequential program for writing success, and a multi-sensory approach to math. This ensures students enhance their reading, writing, spelling, and math skills in a way that suits their needs. Empowering students with confidence and success. That's what 3D Learning Experts is all about. To learn more, visit 3dlearningexperts.com. And when it's time to unwind, why not escape to fabulous Las Vegas with Casa Arce Vacations? Whether you're planning a quick getaway or a family reunion, Casa Arce Vacations offers 4 unique stays at one convenient location. Just under 3 miles from the Strip, choose from a cozy tiny house, 2 stylish studios, or a spacious 4-bedroom, 2-bath unit. All guests have access to amazing amenities, including a play pool, putting green, barbecue, fire pit, and each unit has its own private patio. Perfect for any occasion, they've got the ideal spot for your next adventure. Start planning your trip today at facebook.com/Casa RSA Vacations. Thank you to our sponsors for their support and for the incredible services they provide. Now, let's get back to today's episode.
Well, Jess, you said also, and you've got a lot of things going on with this little, bit of information you shared with me, but your text, right? You made a joke, but how did she take it? You have no idea because you don't know her well enough, right?
Right, and she hasn't responded back since then either.
So I never like to make assumptions or like speculate, but yes, she may have taken that a bit personally because she doesn't know you well enough to know that that was a joke. You don't know her well enough to make a joke and know that she's going to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's what happens with our kids, honestly, is sometimes they show a little bit too much of themselves. Like their true self. And we can talk about that if you want a little bit, but I do kind of break it down for them. Like your true self is somebody that you can be around your parents and stuff like that, where everybody trusts each other and it's okay. You can be goofy and jokey and stuff. But when you're trying to get to know somebody, you want to be yourself, but less of your true self. So you don't want to show as much, just a little bit at a time, because we can't force anybody to trust us no matter how nice we are or how much we do for somebody. Our brain doesn't allow us to. It has to create those neural pathways that it needs to connect with the other person. So it takes time. So it's just like a little bit at a time. So that's...
Yeah. And people are always like, I love how authentic you are. And I'm like, oh, does that mean everyone is not? Yes, that's what that means. And because I tend to be very blunt and honest and straightforward. And so, yeah. Do you work with adults?
I do. I work with them all. Plus, I work with myself as well. I learned so much myself. Believe me, I made all of these, I wouldn't call them, they're not really mistakes, but I've had all of these difficulties and challenges, and I think that just me being neurodivergent myself, I am ADHD to the limit, combined type, just, right? So I had a lot of problems growing up, as far as making friends and keeping friends and an adult, but I've learned so much by just research and teaching students and teaching parents. And, it's been a fun journey.
And so how can parents help their children build authentic relationships, especially when communication styles may be different or misunderstood by their peers?
This is a tough question because honestly, it's really what I've found is it comes down to making sure that our kids are confident in themselves and their self-esteem is, not in jeopardy. So it really starts in the home, and it definitely starts with parents. So parents can really learn to make the adjustments needed, not to take things personally, try to be that person who is building your kid up to feel confident in themselves. And there are all kinds of things. We can take a look at different parenting styles, and that can help as well. Just kind of like not learning something new, but following along with different parenting styles that will help your kid grow, because that's really what we want. And so if they feel good about themselves and confident in themselves and learn that, hey, not everybody's ready for you completely the way you are, because everybody doesn't need you the way you are. You're not going to be great friends with everybody. You might like to hang out with some. So you want to definitely help them understand the different levels of friendship. There are acquaintances. Most people are acquaintances. We're not going to be completely ourselves because we're not going to depend on these people. They're going to be fun to hang out with, and we're going to share things. And then a friend is a little bit different. And that's where we can be much more of ourselves. And I really, am very careful about this because we're not trying to change ourselves. We don't want our kids to change themselves. Like I said, our true self is fine in all situations. We just want to kind of be less than our true self when we're getting to know somebody because they're just not ready for us and we're not ready for them. And it's a trust thing and it's a brain thing. It's nothing more than that, really.
Is there a time frame or of when you can know how long you've been a friend with someone that you can start to be your true self?
So what I tell my kids is I let them try to figure out their feelings, their own feelings, how they feel around somebody. So trust your gut. The gut brain connection is real. So I tell them, you know what, if somebody makes a joke and you're okay with it, like it might hurt, it might hit you personally a little bit at first, but when you know and trust somebody well enough, you're like, oh, okay, haha, whatever, that kind of thing. When you're ready for kind of a joke or sarcasm, because that's really tough, right? And the reason it's tough is because we don't know somebody well enough or trust them enough. Now, there's also the difference between somebody who is that friendly sarcasm or friendly joking and then somebody who's actually mean. So we have to also teach them, what does that look like? What does that feel like? So that we have to go along with that as well.
So there is no true amount of time is what I'm hearing.
Everybody's a little bit different. You know what? Honestly, Jess, it's so hard because it could take months. It could take sometimes years for two people to really completely trust each other and have a bonded friendship. It just depends on how much time you spend together, what you're doing together. If you're just in school and you're friends with somebody or friends with somebody in school for a year or two, you still might not have that bond because you're just kind of hanging out here and there. It's kind of a place that you have to be in. Whereas if you are in band or some kind of club or another situation, that can strengthen the friendship because now you're seeing each other in a different light and you're getting to know them a little bit better. When you go outside of school, like, hey, going over to each other's house or doing this or that, then it helps with that bond. So it might happen a little quicker.
Mm-hmm. Let me try to give an example of this. So with my youngest child, he never really made friends with people. And we were always trying to push him making friends on him because I homeschooled him. So I watched him at Park Day, not really interact with people. And now he's an adult and he still doesn't really have any friends. He has his family and he has online friends. But in retrospect, I think, we were trying to push something on him that was not something he wanted. So what I'm asking is there a way for parents to back off and not try to do that to their child?
You just said it. You answered your question. Back off, right? So if you ever have that question, like, hey, am I pushing too hard? Probably, because you're the parent. You know your kid the best. And yes, if you get that feeling, that intuition, that gut feeling, yes, please go with it. And just understand that a little bit of knowledge does help. Where parents are struggling with a couple of things here. One thing is we have a child. And when they're young, we have expectations and aspirations, right? I mean, we just do. That's just human nature because of, well, maybe not nature. It's everything around us, right? And so we have these thoughts. And then we find out that our kid is probably not going to be on that trajectory. Things could be very different. And honestly, sometimes schools and personnel really scare us. Like, they're never going to be able to do this, or they're going to have to be on this track. And so I say, you know what? We do need some resources and help along the way, but never look at this trajectory as something that can't happen the way your kid wants it to happen. So everything probably will happen very similar unless there's some real delays or challenges. It may take a long time, but the development is going to happen. It's just going to happen very differently. So we know that neurodevelopmentally, our kids are 3, 6, sometimes up to 10 years behind socially and emotionally, their brain developmentally. Now, a 16-year-old kid may look like another 16-year-old kid, may even academically be on target, for maybe a 10th grader. But socially and emotionally, they may be functioning like an 11 or 12-year-old. So to drive, no way. Would you put your 11 or 12-year-old behind the wheel? No. They may be able to academically do it, maybe physically, but not emotionally and socially, which you need to drive a car. So I have a lot of parents that their kids are brilliant, but they're on the spectrum and they're ready to go to college. Well, you know what? The parents are like, yes, they're getting good grades. And the kids are just, they go with it because they think this is where they should be. And then they fail. And why? Because they just weren't socially and emotionally ready for that kind of thing, living on their own and trying to take care of things on their own. they're just a little behind. And then other parents that are like, okay, we're just going to go with what my kid wants and where they are, and we're just going to try to support it the best we can, even though it's driving me crazy because he needs to get out of the house kind of thing. These kids that wait until they're 22, 23, 24 are in so much better shape.
Well, that's great news. Our youngest son, I just brought him home a driver's manual during Christmas break, and he's 24. So we have not pushed him in that area. We're trying to encourage him at this point to start driving, but he has become more independent with taking the bus now, because it just got to a point where, you know, it's like he's 24 and he's still expecting us to chauffeur him around anymore. So he is taking on that responsibility, and he didn't start college until he was 21 or 22, which was much better for him because he's always been socially about 3 or 4. Well, I always said he's about 6 years behind his brother, who's only 18 months older than him, or 16 months older than him. But his brother was really mature, and he was the opposite. So, you know, he's probably like 3 or 4 years behind what the neurotypical person is. And he's doing great in college now, where if I had asked him to start college at 18, like you said, he just would have flopped out.
Yeah. And, you know, sometimes, you know, these kids are resilient, but you don't want them to, you know, fail and then try to pick themselves up in that kind of situation, you know? So yeah, I would tell parents, just understand that there is going to be a gap. You know, what that gap looks like. Usually it's 3 to 6 years. Usually, I mean, it can widen, but usually it's about 3 to 6 years. So when you're looking at your 17 or 18-year-old thinking, oh my gosh, you know, they don't have any friends to go to the prom with, you know, I feel so bad. And honestly, it's the parent that's going through more of the trauma with this than the kid, because the kid's not ready. Is this teenager ready to even make plans to go to the prom? Do they have somebody that they can go to the prom with? I mean, just ask these questions, because then why are we worrying about it and letting them know we're worried about it, and that, you know, this is something that should happen? And does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. My son, who's 16 months older, went to 3 proms, and my youngest son never went to one prom because, you know, he had no interest in it whatsoever. And it was harder on me. Like, you want your child to do all of these typical American things. And my kids were homeschooled. So, you know, I mean, the homeschool prom has been worked into the homeschool world so that the kids are having these typical American experiences.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, and I tell parents all the time, comparison is the thief of joy. And that's all it comes down to, is really taking a look at what other people are doing, or what you think we should be doing, or our kids should be doing. And once we let that go, it's so empowering, and it just changes everything. Then you're focusing more on your kid, yourself, and getting this life really started. And it's amazing what these kids can actually do once they are empowered and they feel good, and they understand. So did I answer the question?
Yes, I think you did.
Okay. Sometimes I can go off on other things because so much goes into it, really. I mean, it's not easy to just say, okay, we can do this or this. You know, every family's different, every situation's different. So you have to take into account, you know, that, but it's just how to get started, and then you move from there, I guess.
So do you have any actionable suggestions that parents can do to help support their child?
You know, the first thing is be confident. That what I would say is just be confident in yourself. You're a parent, you know your kid the best, and you're doing a great job. So just believe that, and that will open doors to seeing your kid a little differently, not comparing or trying to figure out where they should be or shouldn't be, but trying to just see them as they are and then move through that. I know that when kids become teenagers, they push back, and then we get even more frustrated, and we're like, oh my gosh, what are we supposed to do? I'm doing it all wrong. You know, I'm failing, you know, whatever. Sometimes we can feel that way, but we're not, you know, and that's where once we feel the confidence, we will allow them to grow. So as far as actionable steps, really, it's going to be work on you. And that's number one.
Is your child struggling with school, feeling overwhelmed? Introducing 3D Learning Experts, your child's personal tutor. Our expert educators provide personalized, one-on-one support tailored specifically to teach to your child's learning style. We specialize in helping students with dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and similar learning challenges. Our tutors are trained to provide effective strategies for reading, spelling, writing, and math. With our innovative virtual platform, your child can learn from the comfort of their own home. No more commuting or scheduling conflicts. Give your child the boost they need to succeed. Experience the difference with 3D Learning Experts.
So, any suggestions on how parents can start working on themselves?
Start believing in yourself. Start liking yourself. You're a parent. You're a great parent. You've gotten your kid this far. And obviously, for your listeners, they're here trying to learn. So yes, you're great. You're a good parent. So believe in yourself. Believe in that. Because once you start believing in yourself and you build that confidence, then when you do learn a strategy or you hear something or you try something that doesn't work well, you're not going to shut down. And then your kid won't shut down. You're going to find a way. You're going to maybe step back and say, okay, I've made a mistake here. How do I go forward? You're going to be more confident in yourself. So, look in the mirror and say that, you are great. You are a great mom. You're a great dad, and just remind yourself. And it makes a shift. It will make a shift. I promise.
Well, that's awesome. And that kind of segues into your second part of what you do, Parenting Powerhouse program. Why don't you share a bit with us on that and what that program is all about?
So yes, Parenting Powerhouse. It is really a program designed specifically for moms. So I guess dads could take it, but we do talk a lot about female stuff, that does not pertain to men. And I think it's really important because moms and dads they're both parents and they're both great parents, but they do parent differently or they come at it a little differently when they're parenting together. So dads who are single parents might get something really out of Parenting Powerhouse, but it's mostly for moms. And we do have a big section on perimenopause and menopause because that's a part of it too. So Parenting Powerhouse is all about building the confidence in mom and empowering mom to become the parent maybe that she always wanted to be, and that is to find her authenticity. So parenting from a place of authenticity and building that confidence, all in the context of parenting a neurodivergent kid. So because I have that expertise. So it's really about ourselves. And like I said, really liking ourselves, being confident in ourselves, and being able to parent our way and just get it right. Just get it right, bring some peace in our life, and make things easier, I should say. So Parenting Powerhouse, what is it? It is going to empower you in order to ride those waves and make things easier, not do more, not do less in your parenting, just differently so that it can be easier.
And how is it a live course? Is it a one-on-one thing? Is it a group setting? How is that laid out?
Good question. It is a pre-recorded course. There's about 8 to 10 hours right now. I'm going in to make some changes. I'm always updating depending on research, depending on what's going on. I do update it periodically. But the program is the pre-recorded course. And then once a week, I have Zoom, just like this, Zoom office hours live for questions, comments, to work through anything. That's usually an hour or two, once or twice a week, depending on how many people need some help. And then also we have a private Facebook group, which moms just plug in, hey, what can I do about this? Or this just happened, and just talking back and forth and supporting each other. It's not a place to vent necessarily. It's all support. And to have that camaraderie, that I think is one of the most powerful pieces of the program that I didn't think would be, but it has become probably the most powerful piece, is just having each other. And the program, the investment includes, the whole tuition includes access to it forever. And anytime I have an update, you have access to that forever.
Wow. So, and I know you had said when you filled out the form that you were offering a little bonus to our listeners.
Oh, yes. To your listeners, going to give a 10% gift discount. And then I also have a journal that I've created. It's kind of in the works, and it can go along with the course as you're taking the course. Just a simple journal, and you'll get that as well.
Oh, fun. I love journals.
As long as there's not too much white space, and there isn't. I've created this specifically for this course.
Well, that's great. And that's very generous of you to offer 10% off for the course so that our listeners can just let you know that they heard about it on podcast.
Yes. Social skills group or whatever. And honestly, that's really difficult if there is more than one. So what I tell parents is the first thing to do is find one person for your kid to get along with, or at least try to see if they get along with, and just work from there, just one person at a time, no more than one, because it is very difficult executively to focus on more than one person, especially if you don't have those skills, the social skills. So then maybe move up.
So you're saying it's better not to put them in group activities, or not to have expectations of them to make friends in these group activities?
Yes, I'm sorry. I think I got carried away. Yes, you said it. Just not having the expectations that they're going to make any definite connections in a larger group activity. They could go to a social skills group or an activity, and then maybe help them choose one person, get to know that parent of that person, something like that, and try to get them together, outside of that activity, but just concentrate on one person at a time.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really great advice to change our expectations. So, if they're doing an activity, that activity should be for them to learn whatever out of that activity rather than develop relationships. And I found with my youngest son, when I was homeschooling him, that he learned best in one-on-one settings rather than the distraction of all of the other students. And then he didn't compare himself, or, the class didn't compare his strengths and weaknesses more so than strengths with the rest of the class. So he ended up just having pretty much having private sessions. I did have him go to a group program because I was like, well, if you don't participate in group stuff, you're not going to interact with anyone. But most of the time he spent just reading his book by himself there. So really that didn't change anything for him.
Exactly. And that's what you'll find is that, it's confusing, it's scary, it's uncomfortable. So they're still going to do what makes them feel the most comfortable. Mm-hmm. So once they have interaction with one person and it's good interaction and they can build on that, that's going to build those skills. And it just may take some time.
Well, now my son's 24 years old. And like I said, he still hasn't made any in-person friends. I mean, he says in college he has friends, but to me, friends is you plan something outside of school. But I mean, at this point, I'm not trying to push him to do anything. But is that all I should be doing at this point?
Well, you can encourage a little bit. What I would do is I would, do your investigating, ask the questions to find out, has anybody reached out to him? What do people maybe think of him? Like, ask him some of those questions. What do you think this person thinks of you? If you can get him to talk about one or two people he has interaction with, and that'll give you a better idea of kind of what's going on, and maybe help him to better reach out to somebody, because you could say, oh, why don't you text them or whatever? Well, you know what? Is that person expecting a text from him? So you have to be careful the advice you give unless you really kind of know what's going on. So as far as, him having friends, what do they do together? Where are these friends? So I would encourage maybe a little bit more of whatever he's doing first, to hang out with him. And then also let him know if is he part of like any clubs or groups or like.
No, he's a culinary major. And so he just goes to school, but he's interacting with the other students because they're baking together.
They're baking together. Okay. So this is how I use this with my college students. So I really urge them. I'm like, listen, I said, on your resume, you need to have something other than your academics, other than your program, because you're competing with a lot of people once you're finished. So if you have just one other activity, some kind of club you can get involved in or whatever, that looks really good for you, that gives you like a leg up. So that's how I spin it with them. Because if if your son could do something extra, even if it has to do with the program he's in, if it's just something a little extra, then not only does he have that on his resume, and you can let him know that, but also he may connect with somebody, just one person, and it may take some time, but that's not really why he's doing it. That's not how I would spin it. It's like,
Right.
this is for you, for your career. And then who knows, maybe he could. And then that's something like we talked about before. It's something above and beyond the place where you have to be, so there's a little bit more interest in it, and it's a chosen activity. So it makes people feel more comfortable around each other when you're in that situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, I got a ton out of this. I hope my listeners get a lot out of our conversation as well. And speaking of my listeners, how can they find you and learn more about your programs?
So they can go to my main website, which they can find it at tobesocial.org. And that's the number 2, and then spelled out besocial.org. So they can go to the website. Also, they can get to the website through parentingpowerhouse.com. And I just want to let you know I have a podcast that's right now named Parenting Powerhouse, but that is changing. And maybe I'll spill the beans here. Just next week, I'm going to start transitioning, rebranding Parenting Powerhouse to Unapologetically Mom. So it's going to really focus, because that's the way we've kind of gone, and my listeners. And so that's how I'm going to rebrand that. And I've just started to put more videos on my YouTube channel. So that's probably
awesome.
Yeah. And then once you go to the website, you can either, if you're looking for individual social skills, I do them virtually. That would be under the social skills tab. Otherwise, under parenting for the parents, I think I have a free workbook. That's a great workbook to get started on yourself. That's a download. And then also you can take a look at some information about the program and some other things that I have going on there for parents.
Awesome. Thank you, Tara. I appreciate your time. I know this is a busy time of year for you. Well, thank you again for your time. And I look forward to being on your podcast and us chatting again.
Well, thank you so much. It was great being here, and I can't wait to see you again.